breaking news tonight in the Isabel Celis case. Of course, she's a little girl who disappeared 13 days ago. Just a couple of moments, I will speak exclusively with her uncle in his first interview ever. We're going to hear how the family is doing. We're going to get a statement read from him that he says the parents want to get out to the public, his reaction to Isabel's parents' first interview this morning, and so much more. Isabel Celis' mom and dad step into the spotlight and answer questions on NBC's Today Show about their daughter's baffling disappearance. And we've also got their first interview since the 6-year-old vanished 13 days ago. Again, talking exclusively live with the missing girl's uncle, the brother of Isabel's mom, Becky. Next. Tonight, investigators race to the child's home. You see them, they're going inside, and they slam the door behind them.
The family has left the home. Isabel's family is staying at a secret location.
Detectives, just a little while ago, haul one family member after another back to the home where the child disappeared. We've got video for you of the missing child's mother, as you just saw, coming and going from the house.
Sergio and Becky Celis, they gave their first live interview to NBC's Today Show this morning.
We want her back, so whatever it takes to get her back, we will do.
We do feel sometimes that they're wasting time with us.
Still no sign of a 6-year-old girl.
A possible sexual assault 10 miles away from where Isabel disappeared.
The actual feeling in this town is everyone's scared. They're very worried. There's 2 incidents that happened very close to each other.
There's some work being done, but please have patience with us because much of that information I can't talk to you about.
Breaking news tonight as the parents of missing Isabel Celis finally speak out, giving their first interview to NBC's Today Show since the 6-year-old vanished almost 2 weeks ago. Listen.
She's very caring. She loving little girl, loves to come and give mom and dad hugs all the time. Tell us we love her or that she loves us. Beautiful baby girl.
We're desperate. We're desperate in finding out information. We're extremely frustrated that it's taking so long. And we understand that they're doing absolutely everything possible. And sometimes it does feel that, yes, we do feel sometimes that they're wasting time with us, even though we know we have to be under, the closest scrutiny. Absolutely, understandable.
They held back tears. They held each other tightly as they answered the public's burning questions for the very first time. We've only seen the parents speak out once before during a press conference last week where they read prepared statements and didn't answer questions. And cops urging the Celises to talk to the media to keep their little girl's case alive. They have finally done so about 2 weeks from the time Isabel disappeared. This comes one day after Isabel's dad, mom, and brother were taken back to the family home where Isabel vanished and questioned one by one. Tonight, we are analyzing this entire case and taking your calls. 1-877-JVM says 1-877-586-7297. Straight out to my exclusive guest, Luis Rodriguez, the uncle of the missing child. Luis, first of all, our hearts go out to you. We want to be helpful. Thank you for joining us exclusively tonight. We want to keep this story alive. We want to solve this mystery, and we hope, just as you do, to bring this child back home safe and sound. Why are you speaking out publicly now for the very first time? I understand that there is a statement that you would like to read from your sister and her husband, the parents of missing Isabel.
Yes, we want to first of all thank everyone for their prayers and the love that we have received, especially from the community. All their prayers. We want to continue to pray for Isa's safe return and ask everyone to just, continue to keep their eyes open for Isabel. We do understand that Rebecca and Sergio, they want to come out and continue to speak with the media as well. We're just our main focus is to bring Isabel home safe and sound, and we just don't want anything to jeopardize any of the investigation going on at this moment.
How are all of you doing as a family? We saw Becky and Sergio, the parents of little Isa holding each other today. Every time we have seen them, they're emotional, they're crying. How are you all holding up? What is this like for those who have no idea?
This is just something that, it's something that you never think it could happen to you. You wish that it doesn't happen to you, and you think that it's never going to happen to you, but it's just a feeling that you never want to go through. It's just very hard for the family. We're trying to be everybody close together and support for what's going on.
It must seem like just a terrible dream, and I've heard people, I've interviewed many people who have lost their children, whose children have disappeared, and they say it's like a nightmare. They wake up to a nightmare and they keep thinking they're going to wake up and it's going to all be a dream, and it never is. Do you feel a little bit like that, Louis?
Absolutely, and it's the whole family that's going through the same thing. We go to sleep and we hope that it's just a nightmare, and we wake up and we're still in the same situation.
Let me ask you, where and when did you hear that your niece was missing?
I was at work at the moment when I got the first notice, and I came right away to assist for the look of Isabel.
Well, one of the neighbors, the immediate next door neighbor, said that an uncle had knocked on her door and said, "We're looking for a child." Were you the one going around and knocking on the doors?
No, and I do not know anything of that, and so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
What are the parents doing every day? Because it's been about 13 days, and we saw them going into the house with detectives yesterday, one after the other, but they're not staying at the house. What are they doing on a day-to-day basis? Because we don't see them out, let's say, in the neighborhood, let's say, looking, behind shrubs, but obviously they're working hard to find their daughter. What are they doing?
There's really nothing that we could do except for wait and wait for any updates that the investigators bring us. And we're usually every day, we're always together and just praying to God to bring us home safely.
Well, let's listen to more of Isabel's father talking about the last time he saw her show. Listen carefully to this.
She had a baseball game early in the next morning, and Becky braided her hair up, and so she was going to be ready for early morning. And I was asking her if she was hungry, and she just had that little sleepy look as she was walking by, and she's just saying, "No, Daddy, I'm tired." And she's just walking by, and she is so full of life, and she is just so wonderful. And we do miss her so much, and her brothers miss her so much.
Louis, he's a dental hygienist, is my understanding, as well as an opera singer. Your sister is a hospital nurse. They have no criminal history. They've never had, to our knowledge, police come to the house. They've never had Department of Children and Families come to this house. They've had no history of marital turmoil. Absolutely nothing. Now, they have made reference a couple of times to people who might be making demands, people who might have taken this child. Do you know any reason why anybody would want to exact revenge on them? Anybody who might have a gripe against them or a member of the family?
No, we don't know anybody who would even think about doing something like that, and especially the family. The family is very close, and there's really no reason why anybody would want to commit some type of act like that.
Have you seen the inside of little Isabel's room? Was it ripped up? We understand that there was a screen knocked out. Was there turmoil in there, like somebody had done something?
At the moment, I can't really discuss in regards to anything inside the house, so I wouldn't be able to tell you at this time.
All right. Well, how are the brothers doing? I saw one older brother. He looked maybe to be about 11 or 12. He went into the house yesterday with detectives, and I understand there's another brother. How old are those boys exactly, and how are they holding up?
they've lost a sibling. I mean, they want their sister back, and their main concern is for her to come back safe and sound. That's their main concern, and they're really sad about the situation. They love her to death, and they're never going to stop looking for her.
It must be difficult to explain to kids that age what's going on. Now, I understand the parents took polygraphs. Did they pass? What about that? Did they tell you anything about that experience? Because we just heard that just today from the police.
At the moment, I'm not aware of any polygraphs that they've taken or anything like that. I'm not liable to say at this moment.
Okay. Let me just ask you this question about the dogs. Because a neighbor said she was woken up at 6:30 in the morning, her dog barked, and then she heard the Celis' dogs bark, and she heard men's voices. And that was right around the time, just a couple hours before, maybe an hour and a half before the child was discovered missing. Did you hear anything from your sister about the dogs barking that day? I understand the way the layout of the house is. I've seen a floor map. It might have been hard for them to hear if the dogs were barking on the other side of the house. Any thoughts on that at all?
Once again, I mean, these questions are mainly for the investigators. We are, at this moment, we cannot answer any type of those types of questions. If a neighbor saw that or heard, that's their perception of what happened, and at this time we cannot discuss anything in regards to that.
All right. Well, Louis, first of all, I want to thank you for joining us exclusively. Again, my heart. We are all here with the right intention, trying to help out. It breaks my heart to see this beautiful little girl and wonder what happened to her. We want to be helpful. If you have any information at all, tell us and we will get it out for you, we promise. And we want to stay on top of this because news coverage does help keep the focus on a case like this. So, again, our prayers and thoughts are with you. Thank you so much for joining us, Louis.
To do, and if it's anything close to getting Isa back home safely, then whatever it takes. It's nothing we can't handle. We want her back, so whatever it takes to get her back, we will do.
All right, those are the parents of the missing Isabel Celis, 6 years old, missing 13 days. From NBC's Today Show, talking to Ann Curry this morning. We're going to go round robin with our panel experts, starting with Steve Moore, former FBI agent. You heard the parents, you saw the parents, you heard the uncle speaking on our show exclusively. Your thoughts?
They sure seem sincere, but you can't go on your impressions. They did, according to the information I've gotten, take polygraphs, and while they're not releasing the results of the polygraph, what they are saying is that they're still not eliminated as potential suspects. So likely the polygraph either went inconclusive or they just didn't have enough information to eliminate them as suspects.
Wendy Welch, psychologist, co-hosts The Doctors.
You know, I know it's hard to make a TV show, Jane, but I'm really happy that there are a few leaks going on in this case so that authorities are able to do their investigation. As the detective said, this family sure seems sincere. They don't have a history of any trouble, no calls from Department of Children's Services or police to their home ever. So it makes it heartbreaking and heart-wrenching as we sit and wait with them.
All right, Mark Eiglarsh, criminal defense attorney. Some people, though, were questioning why the father and the mother, when asked, basically, in nice, polite phrases, did you have anything to do with it, never came out and said, we have nothing to do with this. They kind of spoke in generalities.
Jane, we can't judge them. None of us are in their shoes, and every now and then when I try to put myself in their shoes, I don't want to go there. I stop because I have 3 young kids, and I don't ever really want to feel what it's really like to be in their shoes. I think that we never know, unfortunately, whether somebody's guilty or not, and that's why police have to continue to investigate. I also think they need to focus on the 15 registered sex offenders that live within a 3-mile radius of this home, and they also need to focus on the very one sex offender that's in the immediate vicinity of this home, and hopefully they come up with something.
Mark Klass, founder of Klass Kids Foundation. You lost your precious 12-year-old daughter to a kidnapping and murder. Your thoughts?
Well, I can't disagree with anything that anybody has said, and indeed I have been where these people are. What happens is you get thrust into this world that nobody can really explain to you, and you're expected to master it. They're not reacting the way I would have reacted, or in fact did react, but I can't fault them for holding on to all the hope they can hold on to.
All right. More in a moment.
Tell us what you want. We will do anything for her.
Yes, I definitely think we know more about this case. We do anticipate that we will bring Isa home safely.
Now, I thought that was a big shocker. Police today sort of saying in passing, yes, we do anticipate that we're going to bring Isabel home safely. I think that's wonderful. But then again, on the Today Show, Isabel parents said they don't have reason to believe that somebody is holding her for ransom. So listen to this.
Not because it's been made and not because it's been said. There have been no demands. There have been no any calls for a ransom. We have the reward ready. There has been no communication that we're aware of.
So I want to go back to Mark Klass, founder of Klass Kids Foundation, and you've been through this hellish experience. That seemed to be a moment of hope when the cops just blurted out, well, yeah, we anticipate bringing her home alive. Are they saying that as sort of a public relations move to just be positive, or do you think they're only saying that because they have some evidence?
Well, I think we always have to stay positive. I really don't know what they have, but the reality is that middle-class children are not taken for ransom. Rich children, perhaps, but not middle-class children. They're taken by sexual criminals.
That is true. I just find it sort of strange that people, the parents keep appealing for whoever has her, but they also say they haven't gotten any requests for ransom. It's really hard to sort out. Let's go to the phone lines. Tommy, Georgia, thank you for your patience. Your question or thought, Tommy?
Hi, Jane. Thanks for taking my call. Sure. I have two questions. One, why haven't they exactly named the parents as persons of interest? Because, I mean, they've only been on TV twice about their children. I mean, if I was a parent, I mean, I would be on the news talking about my children as much as I could. And two, since all of this is happening in Tucson, Arizona, I wonder if any of the family or police have ever thought that maybe this might end up in a death of Isabel Celis.
Yeah, I think that we always have to, unfortunately, be realistic. Wendy Walsh, psychologist, we saw them on the Today Show. Now, people play armchair psychologists, and I think as all of these panelists, including yourself, said, we can't read into this. We can't play God. We can't try to read their minds. Some people said, oh, they're looking down too much. Every time they talk, they appear to be looking down. And some people like to read into that, oh, maybe that means they're not being truthful. It's kind of like a dime store psychologist, Wendy. Do you think that any kind of leap to conclusions of that nature are irresponsible or not?
I think it is kind of irresponsible, and I agree with what Mark Klass said, that, you know, you're in a serious state of shock, and you react in ways that you might even surprise yourself, and everybody experiences shock in a different way. For some people, it's a perpetual state of numbness that shows sometimes no affect, no strong emotions, no strong tears. They're just numb, and sometimes there's a lot of tears and crying, so it's hard to judge.
It really is hard to judge, and nobody knows what it's like to walk in the footsteps of these individuals. More next.
Is kind of in shock over everything that's happened this last week and a half. It's pretty scary.
Now, we've got video for you of the missing child's mother, as you just saw, coming and going from the house.
The statistics show that, you know, it's always most likely someone within the family when it's a child like this. I can't imagine what these parents are going through. But, I mean, what you're seeing is, I mean, it's just what has to be done.
The parents of missing 6-year-old Isabel Celis are worried that police are wasting time scrutinizing them when they should be searching for Isabel.
Sergio and Becky Celis, they gave their first live interview to NBC's Today Show this morning.
I wish I knew where to begin. We are so frustrated to try to understand why this is happening, why this had to happen, why Isabel had to be targeted. We just don't understand that. And to whomever did this, Please, look at her. Look at her. She's beautiful. She doesn't deserve this.
Breaking news, a parent speaking out to the Today Show, begging for the child's safe return. And just moments ago, we spoke to the uncle of missing Isabel. And tonight, the parents confirm that, the police confirm that the parents have both taken polygraph tests. However, we can tell you right now the results have not been released. And we're wondering, is that protocol to keep those polygraph results private? Or are cops keeping secrets in order to help catch who is responsible for Isabel's disappearance?
There is a lot of information, but unfortunately we're not able to share that with you because it is of a sensitive nature.
Tomorrow, it will have been 2 weeks since anyone has seen Isabel. And again, I just spoke to Isabel's uncle in an exclusive interview moments ago.
We don't know anybody who would even think about doing something like that, and especially the family. The family is very close, and there's really no reason why anybody would want to commit some type of act like that.
All right, straight out to our producer on the ground, Celine Darkle-Stanian, who got that interview for us with the uncle. A good work out there, Celine, and I know you're all over this story. You also noticed, apparently in the back of Isabel's home in the alley, there is a surveillance camera, and you took a photograph of it, and there it is pointing, it would appear anyway, toward the sky, and you sent us this picture. Put this in perspective for us.
Jane, the back of their house faces an alley. So if you are just walking or driving in the alley, you see that surveillance camera. There are no trees around the house. There's nothing around the house. It's actually just an open sky. And the surveillance camera that we noticed just a few days ago is facing up towards the sky. So you have to wonder, did somebody move it? Was it always like that? I mean, that video could have been crucial in capturing somebody jumping over the gate through the alley and jumping into the backyard and going to Isabel's window. But again, as you see, the camera just faces up. So who knows? How long has it been like that? Have cops taken video from it and they're just not saying, did somebody move that knowing something like that was going to happen? I mean, we don't know, but it is very interesting that that camera is there on this house facing the alley.
And again, that's the house of the Celis family?
Yes, that is their house. Their house faces an alley. It's a corner house on the street. So that camera faces an alley, and their house is the most secure house on this block. If you look at this block, if somebody was to just walk on this block, their house is like a fortress. It has huge walls around the house, so somebody would have to jump the gate and get in, whereas all the other houses you can just walk straight up to the windows. So it's really
it would be even harder to abduct a child from that house. Interesting.
Exactly. Why that house if it was random?
Great work out there, Celine. I mean, you're doing detective work, I would say. Now, cops have been all over the place in this investigation. They haven't ruled anybody out as a suspect. They're looking, in Mexico for Isabel. They are also looking at this other child sexual assault that occurred 10 miles away earlier this week, where this predator burst into a room with 3 young girls, one of them the same age as little Isabel, and sexually assaulted at least one of them. Isabel's family talking to the Today Show for the first time, answering questions. Here's what the father said on NBC's Today.
She had a baseball game early in the next morning, and Becky braided her hair up, and so she was going to be ready for early morning. And I was asking her if she was hungry, and she just had that little sleepy look as she was walking by, and she just said, "No, Daddy, I'm tired." And she was just walking by, and she is so full of life, and she is just so wonderful. And we do miss her so much, and her brothers miss her so much.
Now, Mark Eiglush, criminal defense attorney, did you hear that she was so full? She is. He corrects himself there. Do you see anything significant about that whatsoever?
No, and at this point, I continue to defend them. I mean, dare help all of us if we're ever in those shoes and people are analyzing left and right And the reason why we are, Jane, fortunately, is because we don't have enough information, and that's great. I am so encouraged that these investigators continue to hold information close to the vest because, in my experience, very few things compromise an investigation more than them dumping out information, which makes wonderful Jane Velez Mitchell issue shows, but compromises investigations.
Well, you know, I worked through my issues, so they dropped the issues. Obviously, you still think I have issues, which I do.
Maybe.
You never fully work out your issues. But
one day at a time, Jane.
Yeah, one day at a time, exactly. Wendy Walsh, psychologist. People have been making a lot of the fact that the father said, you know, she was, and then he corrected, she is. Is that fair? And is it also fair to question why they haven't been through the doing interviews, like talking to every local news reporter out there? You know, many people have said and called and said, if it were my kid, I'd be out there talking to every camera and everybody with a tape recorder. I can tell you that I know people often become petrified, absolutely petrified and frozen when you ask them to do interviews. But you'd think that a missing child would overcome any kind of shyness that you might have.
Well, you know, I think it's also a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you do too much press, then people are saying, oh, they doth protest too much. Maybe they're out there trying to spin their lies. So you're going to get criticized no matter what. And as far as was or is, remember, this is a time of great confusion. They don't know if their daughter's alive or not. They're holding out hope. But what they're saying is, when they use past tense and was, I'm thinking they're thinking the last time they saw her, she was, you know, she was happy, she was loving, she was sleepy that night. That doesn't mean she's passed away. But it's a confusing time.
Yeah, and let's go into some of the nitty-gritty of this case. The parents told cops they last saw Isabel 11 p.m. Friday, April 20th. They tucked her into bed, or she was headed to bed for a baseball game the next morning. The next morning, Isabel's mom leaves for work at 7:30 a.m. Half hour later, the dad goes to wake Isabel up and says he finds her missing. Now, many wonder how the parents didn't hear anything suspicious if the child had been abducted. Check this out from ABC's GMA.
Inside the Celis' house, a look at the floor plan on file with the city shows how someone could have snatched Isabel from her room without her parents hearing anything. Their bedroom is across the 2,300 square foot home in a corner on the opposite side of the house.
Additionally, a neighbor who lives near Isabel's room said she heard the Celis' dogs barking furiously at 6:30 a.m. and men's voices. So, Mark Klass, again, it's so easy to play sort of armchair quarterback and analyze all this, but is there any concern that they did not hear anything, apparently, that was enough to make them wake up and intervene?
Listen, Jane, in my daughter Polly's case, her mother was sleeping a mere 6 feet away in another room. And this guy came into the bedroom and had a conversation with the girls, tied up her girlfriends, and then stole Polly. Polly's mom slept through that entire thing. They may have been in deep sleep. I don't think we can draw anything from this at all.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Nancy, Massachusetts, your question or thought, Nancy?
Hi, Jane. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I'd like to thank you for all you do to be the voice of these children that are missing.
Thank you.
Secondly, I'd like to say, you know, the dog, she had a dog, the family has a dog that never barked. So it kind of like makes me suspicious that it might be someone that they knew or that had been in that house that knew the dog, like a family member or someone close to the family. And third, everybody's picking at these people. You know, I'm a person of a crime. I'm a survivor of a crime. And I know before then I would nitpick. But now, after it happened to me, you couldn't get me to talk. But, well, you know, what you do, everybody reacts differently to
Nancy,
each situation.
you make
I just hope they find
excellent points, Nancy. Steve Moore, going to give you the last word. The dogs were barking, but it's possible that I'd like to know if there was anybody else in the house, any other relative, Steve.
Yeah, I think that's something that they really have to look at here, because now you have to spread the net out a little bit farther. Maybe it's not the parents. Maybe it's it could still be relatives. Maybe it could be somebody that you've never even thought of that could be a relative that knew her. You can't let everybody in the family escape scrutiny, and it could be somebody that the dog knew.
I got to say that this is the most perplexing case that's come down in a while. It really is. And let's not forget one other thing, that a police dog hit in or around the home, which is another wrinkle that, again, so many things pointing in so many different directions. The police do have their work cut out for them, and I think that I'm guessing we're going to see more developments, especially next week. That's my prediction. On the other side of the break,